Hello everyone, I am Vinod Kumar, working as an assistant professor in Thandai Periyar Government Institute of Technology, Vellore. So now I am going to present a video lecture on non-invasive monitoring of gases, which comes under Unit 5, Biochemical Measurement. So it comes under the subject of Basics of Biomedical Instrumentation. So the main objective of this Unit 5, Biochemical Measurement is to familiarize the different biochemical measurements, and students will demonstrate knowledge of proper use of modern instrumental techniques with analytical measurements. The main course outcome of this Unit 5 is students will understand the different biochemical instruments. So first we discuss what is the basic idea of blood gas monitoring. So blood gas determination can provide valuable information of first one, efficiency of pulmonary gas exchange, and then adequacy of alveolar ventilation, and then blood gas transport. Fourth one is tissue oxygenation. So basically this invasive technique is to determine arterial blood gases. So pulmonary gas exchange are external respiration is the process of removing carbon dioxide CO2 from blood and replenishing oxygen supply. So it occurs between alveoli and blood of lungs. So next, alveolar ventilation is nothing but exchange of gas between alveoli and external environment. So alveolar ventilation is defined as volume of fresh air entering the alveoli per minute and volume of alveolar air leaving the body per minute. So next, what is meant by blood gas transport means, this is the important task of blood to transport the oxygen absorbed in the lungs to the organs and tissues and to remove carbon dioxide formed in the body. And then fourth one is tissue oxygenation, which occurs when oxygen molecules enter the tissues of humans, and it occurs when blood is oxygenated in the lungs by oxygen molecule traveling from the air and into the blood. So non-invasive blood gas monitoring is nothing but it is a medical procedure. So when no break in the skin is created and there is no contact with the mucosa or skin break or internal body cavity beyond a natural or artificial body orifice, and without any direct contact we have to find the level of blood gases. So that is nothing but non-invasive blood gas monitoring methods. So what are the different invasive techniques means? So intermittent blood sampling provides historical data valid only at the time sample taken. So delays between the blood sample drawn and when the blood gas values are reported is maintained averagely about 30 minutes. So invasive techniques are painful and have associated risks. So based on these limitations, particularly serious in critically ill patients for whom close monitoring of arterial blood gases is essential. So continuous invasive monitoring of blood gases, on the other hand, it makes possible to recognize changes in tissue oxygenation immediately and to take corrective action before irreversible cell damage occurs. So various non-invasive techniques for monitoring arterial oxygen, O2 and CO2 have been developed in this concept. So in this video lecture, I am going to describe basic sensor principles. What are the instrumentations for non-invasive blood gas monitoring and clinical applications of the non-invasive monitoring of arterial oxygen saturation, that is nothing but SO2, and oxygen tension PO2 and carbon dioxide tension PCO2 is discussed here. So next we discuss about the skin characteristics. So in order to appreciate the challenges of non-invasive measurement of the blood chemistry, it is important to understand the structure of human skin first. So the human skin has three principal layers. So the stratum corneum, epidermis and dermis. So these are all the three basic layers of human skins. So these layers form a cohesive structure that typically varies in thickness from 0.2 to 2 millimeter. So depending on the position on the body. So this is the basic diagram of skin of human. The stratum corneum is the non-living outer layer of the skin. So stratum corneum is the non-living outer layer of the skin. So it is mainly composed of a supple protective layer of dehydrated cells. So the non-vascular epidermis layer is a living tissue. So underneath the stratum corneum, so which is shown in the diagram, it consists of proteins, lipids and the melanin forming cells, which is named as melanocytes, so that give skin its color. So the average thickness of this epidermis is 0.1 to 0.2 millimeter. So next we discuss about dense connectivity tissue, hair follicles, sweat glands, nerve endings, fat cells and a profuse system of capillaries. So make up the dermis. So that is nothing but third layer. So vertical capillary loops approximately 200 to 400 micrometer in length provide nutrients for the upper layers of the skin. So blood is basically supplied to these capillaries by arterioles that form a flat network parallel to the surface of the skin below the dermis. So venous blood in the skin is drained by venules in the upper and middle dermis and by larger veins in the subcutaneous tissue. So next we discuss about pulse oximetry, so which is otherwise named as transcutaneous arterial oxygen saturation monitoring. So transcutaneous is nothing but measured, so it is the measurement which is made across the depth of the skin. So then oximeters can be used to measure SO2 non-invasively by passing light through the pinna of ear. So pinna is nothing but external part of ear in human beings. So because of complications caused by light absorbing characteristics of skin pigment and other observers, so measurement is made at 8 different wavelengths and are computer processed, and then final output data is provided. So this is the analysis of pulse oximeter. So in the skin of ear, so that is nothing but pinna of ear. So basically, ear is warmed at 41 degrees Celsius to stimulate arterial blood flow. So a 2 wavelength transmission, so non-invasive pulse oximeter is shown in the above diagram. This is nothing but 2 wavelength transmission non-invasive pulse oximeter. So the above instrument, so it is basically determines SO2 by analyzing the time varying or AC component of light transmitted through the skin during systolic phase of blood flow in the tissue. So this pulse oximetry measurement achieves arterial oxygen content with only 2 wavelengths, so 660 and 940 nanometer, so for a instant of time. So DC component of the transmitted light, which represents light absorption by the skin pigments and other tissues, so is used to normalize the AC signals. So transcutaneous reflectance oximeter based on a similar photoplethysmographic technique has been developed for the future measurement of this SO2. So the advantage of this reflectance oximeter is that it can monitor SO2 transcutaneous at various locations on the body surface, so including more central locations such as the chest, forehead and limbs, so that are not accessible via conventional transmission oximetry. So that is the main advantage of this reflectance oximeter. So because of these other significant improvements in the instruments, so measurements of ear, toe and fingertip oximetry are widely used. So non-invasive measurements of SOT can be made with 2.5% accuracy for saturation values from 50% to 100%. So next we discuss about transcutaneous SO2 sensor. So basic transcutaneous SO2 sensor for both transmission and the reflective mode, so which make use of a light source and a photodiode. So in the transmission mode, two face each other and a segment of the body is interposed. In the reflection mode, the light source and photodiode are mounted adjacent to each other on the surface of the body. So this transcutaneous SO2 sensor is shown in this diagram. So transcutaneous transmission, so SO2 sensor and monitor. These transmission sensors are placed on the fingertips, toes, ear lobes or nose. So a pair of red and infrared light emitting diodes are used for the light source with peak emission wavelengths of 660 nanometer, so which is nothing but in red color, and 940 nanometer with infrared. So these detected signals are processed in the form of transmission photoplethysmograms by the oximeter, so which determines the SO2. So what are the different applications of SO2 monitoring means? So direct assessment and trending of adequacy of tissue oxygenation can be determined by SO2 value. So then oximetry is applied during anesthesia, so intensive care and oral surgery. It is also used in the home for monitoring self-administered oxygen therapy. So next we discuss about the transcutaneous arterial oxygen monitoring, so which is named as TCPO2. So in TCPO2 monitoring, so a Clark electrode is used in a sensor unit, so that is placed in contact with the skin. So the oxygen electrode principle of operation has already been discussed in the previous technique. So only two known gas mixtures are required to calibrate the sensor. So because the relationship between O2 dependent current and PO2 is linear in nature, so two calibration procedures are commonly used in this TCPO2 monitoring. So one employs two precision medical gas mixtures such as nitrogen and oxygen. So the other method employs sodium sulfate and ambient air. So drift of 1 to 2 mm, so Hg bar H for the TCPO2 sensor is typical in nature. Then we discuss about the TCPO2 sensor, so in which three glass sealed PT cathodes are separately connected via current amplifiers to an silver anode ring. So that is nothing but the important process in this transcutaneous PO2 sensor. So a buffered KCl electrolyte which has a low water. Buffered KCl electrolyte is used. So under normal physiological conditions, so PO2 at skin surface is essentially atmospheric, so regardless of the PO2 in underlying tissues. So this is the basic diagram of transcutaneous oxygen sensors, so in which we use cathode, so membranes and electrolytes, sensors, and then anode, so which is placed in the skin surface. So next we discuss about the hyperemia. So hyperemia of the skin causes the skin PO2 to approach the arterial PO2. So hyperemia can be induced by using some drugs, by heating of skin, or by the application of nicotinic acid cream. So heating gives the most readily controllable and consistent effect. So heating element and a thermistor sensor are used to control the skin temperature, so which is beneath the TCPO2 sensor. So sufficient arterialization results when the skin is heated to temperatures between 43 degrees Celsius and 44 degrees Celsius. So this temperature causes minimal skin damage, but with neonates it is still necessary to reposition the sensor frequently to avoid burns to the skin. So heating the skin has two beneficial effects. So oxygen diffusion through the stratum corneum increases and vasodilation of the dermal capillaries increases blood flow to skin at the sensor site. So where the heat is applied, so increased blood flow delivers more oxygen to heated skin region, so making the excess O2 diffuse through the skin more easily. So amount of oxygen released to the cells for a given PO2 is increased. So the heat also increases local tissue oxygen consumption, which tends to decrease oxygen levels in the skin tissue. So these two opposing factors approximately cancel each other. So duration of monitoring is a function of the skin sensitivity to possible burns, so as well as to electrode drift. So next we discuss the applications of TCPO2 monitoring. So monitoring the TCPO2 has found many applications in both clinical medicine as well as physiological research in situations where tissue oxygenation values are very important. So TCPO2 measurements are used routinely for neonates because of their thin skin. Clinical results with adults have proved less valuable. So TCPO2 measurement are used for newborn infants, those in respiratory distress. The main reason is to administer oxygen to sick infants. So next we discuss about TCPCO2 monitoring. So TCPCO2 monitoring is nothing but transcutaneous CO2 monitoring. So monitoring TCPCO2 gives more accurate results than TCPO2 in adult patients. So TCPCO2 are much dependent on skin blood flow. So this sensor is similar to TCPO2 sensor except sensing element. So CO2 sensor is a basically glass pH electrode with concentric Ag reference electrode as used as an heating element. So electrolyte bicarbonate buffer is placed on electrode surface. So CO2 permeable Teflon membrane separates the sensor from its environment, which is shown in this diagram. So TCPO2 sensor operates according to the Stowe-Swearingen's principle. So that is, a pH electrode senses a change in the CO2 concentration. So this system is basically calibrated with a known CO2 concentration solution because a CO2 electrode has a negative temperature coefficient. So calibration must be performed at the temperature at which the device will be used. So effects of heating the skin beneath the TCPCO2 sensor must be determined before the measurements can be properly interpreted. So heating the skin beneath the sensor causes an increase in PCO2. So because solubility of CO2 decreases with an increase in temperature. So second issue is local tissue metabolism. So because cell metabolism is directly correlated with temperature. And third effect is rate of CO2 diffusion through the stratum corneum, which increases the temperature. So as a consequence of these three effects, all work in the same direction to increase TCPCO2 values. So eating the skin basically heals TCPCO2 values larger than the corresponding arterial PCO2. So the correlation between TCPCO2 and arterial PCO2 is usually unsatisfactory only. So the slope of the CO2 electrode calibration line is essentially that of the Nernst equation. So a 2-point calibration. So as for the PO2 electrode is not needed. Transcutaneous PCO2 sensor have longer time constant than TCPCO2 sensors. So response time of a TCPCO2 electrode varies inversely with temperature. So measurement of the TCPO2 sensor response time with step increases in the inspired CO2 gives longer time constants. So next we discuss about the applications of TCPCO2 monitoring. So TCPCO2 is higher than blood PCO2 because epidermal cells CO2 diffuses to the dermal capillaries in response to a diffusion gradient. So arterial blood entering the rising segment of capillary loop picks up CO2 from the exiting venous side. So these are all the basic applications of TCPCO2 monitoring. So these are all the transparent monitors, so which is used in the clinical laboratories. So the diagram is taken from this website. So Radiometromeria and from the reference book. So that is nothing but Medical Instrumentation Application and Design. So it is written by John G. Webster, and the reference book for this non-invasive blood gas monitoring is a book written by John G. Webster, Medical Instrumentation Application and Design. Thank you.